Hi guys, Chris here with Super Savvy Travelers. Hey, today we're going to go over a very important document in your Italian home purchase, and it's something you absolutely need to know about. Not only know about, but know intimately. So we're going to go over it in very good detail. But first, housekeeping. Please like and subscribe to the channel because I'm going to give you so much good information. And if you get a chance, go binge watch the other stuff because I talk about so many really important legal issues and things like that. We have interviews with Nick Metta, Studio Legale Metta. We have interviews with doctors. We have interviews with all kinds of people. And these are really highly qualified and knowledgeable people, so you don't want to miss those. Also, we have a Patreon channel, and you want to go join because today I am working up a document which is a glossary of terms you're going to run into in real estate listings and in the process of purchasing the house. And it's going to go over in some detail exactly who these guys are that you're going to run into and why you should know what they do. So without further ado, I'm going to go over what's called the Compromesso. The Compromesso is also called the preliminare. The preliminare / Compromesso can take the place of an offer letter. Now, we have either done one or the other in the past. We've done Compromessos a lot in Calabria, but when we were in Puglia, there was an offer letter. So we did that. But I noticed that in Puglia, with the offer letter, it had a lot of the same details that were in the Compromesso, and we didn't do a Compromesso, and we paid the deposit based on the offer letter. So it looks to me like you do one or the other. I don't see the point in doing both. If I have my choice, I would do a Compromesso, because when you do an offer letter, you're giving the seller a certain amount of time to respond, and you can't go off and buy another house in the meantime. Like if you give them 30 days, you're stuck for 30 days. The Compromesso, you don't have to do that. If they don't sign it, they go, I refuse to sign it, I'm not negotiating, whatever, that's fine. Or if they take too long, you can go, look, 2 weeks and I'm pulling off this Compromesso because you're not responding. I've never had to do that. Usually sellers are so anxious to sell, they're like, we'll see you tomorrow. And that's a good thing. But you want to make sure that you keep yourself covered. Now, another thing I need to add here is I am not an Italian real estate agent. I'm not a broker. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an architect or a geometrist. I'm none of those things. I am a licensed real estate agent in California who, together with my husband, have bought and sold several properties. We've renovated several properties. We've run B&Bs. We've done a lot in Italy. So we've been around the bend. And I have been happy to have this channel for, 4 or 5 years and have some of the best minds I have ever seen interviewed on the channel. And we worked with some of the highest quality people in Calabria and now in Tuscany and in Puglia. So there you go. You can assess the value of what I'm going to tell you here. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to go over this Compromesso with you and every article in it so you understand why the article is important, why it's there, and what you need to know about it. Now, the Compromesso is a little deeper into the process than, just coming in and getting started. The first thing you do is get your Codice Fiscale, which is the Italian tax code. You're going to be issued that. It's usually free. If you go to the Agenzia dell'Entrata, you can go make an appointment in Belvedere. But in Bari, I got an appointment the next day for my client. So depending on where you go, it might be easier. Belvedere, 2-3 week wait sometimes. Bari, next day. So anyway, you can also get them online. You will have to pay. All right, so the Compromesso, basically an explanation of what it is. Compromesso, come together, promesso, promise. You are coming together and promising things. You, the buyer, are promising to buy the property, and the seller is promising to sell the property, and all the details of the property purchase are in the Compromesso, and they must be. Now, let me start out by saying, if you are negotiating furniture into the contract to sell the house, like you're buying it furnished, right? Understand that furniture included does not mean that furniture included, like the furniture that's in the house. We actually had somebody that we know show up on buying day, and the super nice furniture was taken out and shabby furniture was substituted, and she was not happy. The way to avoid that is get a description of each piece of furniture and photos and put them in the Compromesso. That is a tip from Nick Metta, which I will never forget, especially after this person got the bait and switch pulled. So anyway, the Compromesso is a promise to buy and sell, and it is generally accompanied by a deposit of 10% of the asking price. With that deposit, the sellers usually update the cadastral plans, meaning the floor plans, and get them current. And they get what's called an APE or an energy statement. The energy statement is a statement of the energy efficiency of the property, and it goes from A through G, A being the best, G being the worst. And I'll tell you, I've seen one A++, and it was a brand new property, and these guys had just made a point of making it green as heck. So it was really, really good. A++ with all new stuff. Expensive. Most of them I see are G, especially the ones in the historic center. Even if people have been living in them, they're a G. You know, the windows shake and rattle, you know, when the wind and rain comes in, and they don't have high quality heat and air conditioning. Some of them don't even have any heat or air conditioning. And all of that stuff adds up to the energy efficiency, taking it down to a G if you don't have it, or taking it up to an A if you do. I don't know all the details on it. That's for a geometer to go over with you, but they have to update that energy statement. Now, the cadastral plan update can be around 1,200 euros, maybe more if it's a giant house. The APE is usually about 250. That's in Calabria, so that's just what we're familiar with. The seller has to pay that, and they generally, what I've seen is they generally pay it out of the deposit, because not a lot of normal people have 1,400 euros lying around to just pay for it. And they're not going to do it and pay that money out and then have something happen where they don't get a deposit or some kind of remuneration and be out that money and possibly have to wait, to sell the house. Anyway, so that said, let's go over the articles of this Compromesso. This was with a client of ours, and he was buying a simple property. And basically the first couple of articles go over who the people are. It's going to give your name and address. It's going to give your codice fiscale number. So you're going to need that. It's going to go over that. It's going to show the seller first and then the buyer. And then the agreements and stipulations. And it gives the object of the Compromesso is for the seller to agree to sell it to you and the buyer to agree to buy it. And all of the details, the price, the legal description, all of those things included in the Compromesso document. Now, a very important thing about that is it talks to the promising seller promises to sell to the promising buyer, who promises to purchase for himself or for another natural or legal person to be appointed at the time of signing the final deed. And then it explains the following real estate unit, and then gives a very brief description of where the house is located and what it consists of. Now, the wording about himself or a legal person to be appointed lets you have a power of attorney if you need one. So I would make sure you have that in your document. So in the event you can't get over from the US or Australia or wherever you're coming from to sign the document, you can get a power of attorney if that wording is in there. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but that's my observation. Okay, the next is a brief description of the property. Now, let me tell you something. The address number on the property means nothing. And I've had people get really freaked because they go, I was going to sign this Compromesso, and the number is different. It doesn't matter. What matters is a legal description, and this tells you exactly what the property is. It's on 3 levels. It has a kitchen dining room. It has this many bedrooms and bathrooms on the 1st and 2nd floor with a terrace, bordered by Via so-and-so, the street, or Via, if it's in a historic center, on 2 sides, and this other border street on the other side. So it tells you exactly where it's located. That's important. Doesn't matter what number, because it's explaining exactly what that is. And it goes into a much more detailed legal description here. The property in the land registry is registered. It's this particle number. It's a category A4. Now the categories are very, very important, because not only the Compromesso, but just in general, you need to know what category that property falls into, because the tax implications are hugely different. Number one, if you're buying a residential property, that's one thing. If you're buying a luxury property, that's another. And you can't look at a property and go, oh yeah, that would be considered a luxury property. No, it's what's in the cadastral registry that determines whether it's a luxury property. So make sure that you find out and you put in the Compromesso what category that is, and then do your research. Things like agricultural land, like you buy a little farmhouse with olive trees around it, agricultural land is taxed way more than just regular land. It's very different, and you really need to know. Luxury properties, which are described, but again, you only know if you look at the land registry, is taxed at 22% when you buy it. And that's 22% of the market value. Normally, when you buy a house in Italy, if it's going to be your primary residence, you pay 2% of the cadastral value, and the cadastral value is almost always way cheaper than the market value. If you're buying a second home in Italy, the taxes are 9% of the cadastral value, but still the cadastral value is a lot lower. If you're buying new construction, it's more expensive. If you're buying a luxury home, it's 22% on the market value. So make sure you understand the category. I think I got my point across. There can be big money differences. Okay, good. The next thing that is indicated in these articles is the lump sum sale. Basically, they're saying that they're selling you the property as is. Basically, there's a lot of legalese in here. The seller is saying, yes, it's free from any mortgage burden. There's no easements or anything on it. That's all well and good for them to say, but double check and make sure you check those things, because they can declare whatever they want to declare. But once you sign the act, it's really tough to go after somebody for misrepresentation or try to get anything out of them for that. So make sure before you go in that you never have to go legal. And they're selling you the property as is. All the pipe leaks that go along with it, or all the great things that go along with it. You know, you got a beautiful view of the sunset every night. That's wonderful. You're buying that, you know, but you're also buying any sort of inherent liabilities. So make sure you understand exactly what they are. Okay, another thing that I see in the Compromesso and in the Acts is a chronological history of succession in case of inheritances, or deeds in case somebody bought and sold the property. And that's very, very important, because sometimes you get what's called a usucapione, which is a squatter's rights thing. And the number of deeds and how perfect the deeds were at the time do kind of enter into it. I'm not going to give you a whole lot of legal stuff because that's Nick Mehta's bailiwick, and he's given us a lot of good data on usucapione. In fact, I think we went into it in detail on one of the Nick Mehta Studio Legale Mehta interviews. Please go look for that in the playlists. So this one is basically saying here, back in 1990, there was another deed that was done for whatever reason. And then back in 1980, another deed was done. Maybe they were splitting the property. Maybe somebody was, you know, buying his brother's portion. Maybe they sold the whole thing, who knows. But anyway, it's giving you that. Now, there's another guarantee here. The next article is the seller is guaranteeing that the property is free of liens, it's free of mortgages, it's free of all kinds of things. That's great, but we actually purchased a property that we found out had an unresolved lien on it, and luckily the notario was super brilliant and caught that and said, I'm not doing the act. On the very day we were all dressed up ready to go to the notario, and guess what? There's a lien! So make sure, you know, of course we really recommend Nick Mehta for Studio Legale Mehta to do the super in-depth research. The next article goes into possession. The promising seller guarantees that the promising buyer will obtain the de facto and legal possession of the real estate unit upon signing the final deed. So once you sign your name on all the pages, you have to sign all the pages, you get the keys. And the notario will give you your keys and say, congratulations on your new home. And then you all make a cheer and you go out and take pictures. And the notario will also let you take pictures of you signing the deed or somebody signing for you. Sometimes they even pose for pictures. We've had that, which is always really nice, holding the keys up. Oh my God, they're my keys. It's a really exciting time. And the thing is that the notario appointment can be super stressful or it can be very exciting. And the only difference is the amount of research that you do. Okay, so the next article has to do with building legitimacy. As of 1967, they had put in new administrative and urban planning regulations. And if the property was renovated after that, then you have to make sure that you have all the permits and things listed. They listed it in the Compromesso. I would like to see that. Definitely have them listed in the act. So when you're going to go do the act, make sure your translator or your agent calls up the notario and gets a draft of the act and goes over it with you in detail, telling you exactly what everything is. And if you see things that are missing, definitely let them know you want them put in. Now, this particular property was renovated post-1967, and we could tell it probably looked about 1980 or 90 when it was renovated. You know, a little dated, but in really good shape. So this one tells you what the permit numbers are and everything else. The next article has to do with the price, that is the agreed selling price. It's going to tell you what's going to be paid as the deposit, and it's going to give usually the bank information and wire transfer instructions in the Compromesso as to where you're going to send your deposit. The next article says the remaining sum of the price of the house minus the deposit is going to be paid upon signing the act. which will be on or before this date. Now, the on or before date is very important. It's the drop dead date. So you have all that time before that to sign the act. Now, if you're planning on signing it 2 weeks from now, don't put 2 weeks from now. Put 3 months. Because once you get past that on or before date, you're kind of in a little legal jeopardy here. I mean, we've had things stretch out because, you know, the seller had to perfect the deed before the person was able to buy the house, or the person couldn't get the money transferred to the notario's office in time, and it's been fine. But that's lucky. You know, the seller could just go, no, you didn't sign it, you know, we didn't do the act, and I'm keeping your deposit. I've never had anybody be, you know, that stringent about it, but it could happen, so make sure. And one of the final things you're going to see is the indication that the deposit needs to be paid or the compromesso is null and void. Another article is the expenses. Who's going to pay for what? Generally, you as the buyer, you pay for the notario's fees, but you get to choose the notario. Don't just let anybody choose, and make sure he's somebody that you really, really feel comfortable with. So you get to choose the notario, but you pay the notario's fees. You also pay your transfer taxes. You also pay your stamp and registry and blah, 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 all these little taxes that go along with it. And the transfer taxes, as we mentioned, for a second home is 9% of the cadastral value. For a prima casa first home, it's 2% of the cadastral value. Now, in order to do the prima casa thing, you have to have your residency or get your residency within 18 months of the signing. So that's a whole nother issue. We've discussed that at length on the channel as well, and we'll probably discuss it again. And there's a provision that the date and time of the signing of the act will be agreed upon by the parties. In the end, you sign and date it, and it tells you where it was signed. So you're going to sign and date 2 copies, and you get an original, and that's very important to keep with you. A couple of important things is that you have to make sure that the notario gets all of the money that you need to pay, the balance due on the sale of the home, but also your taxes, his fee, and your agent will be able to give you a lump sum, like, you know, it's going to be $5,000 for the notario's fees, for your transfer taxes, for the stamp fee, and all these other taxes and things like that. And so know that in advance, so you send that over and get the lump sum over to him in plenty of time for the act, because if he doesn't receive it, he will not sign the act. Because once he signs the act, it's a done deal. And if he doesn't have the money, he can't pay the taxes and he can't pay the seller. It would be a huge, huge mistake for him to do the act without having the money in his bank account. Now, another little thing that I will recommend, and these are all based on our experiences and advices we've been given, is many times people will go, oh, just pay the seller directly. Well, we don't recommend that for many reasons. First of all, you pay the seller directly, they have no motivation to show up and sign the act, and they'll still own the property even though you've paid. Now, of course, you could have legal remedies, but good luck with that. I mean, legal stuff, from what I hear, goes very slowly in Italy, and it's expensive. So you don't want to go down that road. What you do is you ask for the notario to create a dedicated notario account. It's going to cost you 300 to 400 euros, but it's money well spent because it's very, very secure. Then, as soon as the act is signed, the notario is going to take the money, he's going to pay all the taxes, he's going to record the deed, he's going to disperse the money to the seller, which could take a couple weeks, but the nice thing is you get your keys right away. So once you sign that act, you go in and you start buying furniture and cleaning up and getting the place painted and all the super fun things that go along with buying a new house in Italy. So there you go. This is just one of many, many documents. And what you want to do is take our course. The details are below because it goes over a lot of this stuff. You can also hire us to help you through the process, which of course we highly recommend because we're obviously very knowledgeable, and we really take it seriously, and we want you to have a really good experience in the purchase of your house. We have super happy clients. We have a ton of services that we can provide, things that you won't normally find. Like, for example, if there's a leak in the roof and you want to see what the roof looks like, we can drone it for you. I don't know anybody that can do that. And then you can even have it looked at by the architect while you're droning it, and we've done that in the past. So there's a lot of services that we have in addition to taking you from start to finish through the process, or even if you want a remote purchase, which we really don't recommend unless you've been to that particular town before and you know where this house is and everything else. Once you've done that, we can go out and do all of the legwork involved and take you through the entire process. So it's up to you how much or how little help you need. We have different packages for different levels of comfort and different levels of knowledge and expertise. So here's your homework. First of all, buy my book. I made it very cheap and it has vital information in it. Secondly, take my course. Again, I made it very cheap because I don't want you to fall into a hole. And thirdly, go join our Patreon channel because I'm going to give you free downloads that are going to be really exciting. And lastly, shoot us an email if you want somebody to hold your hand through the entire process. We love doing it. We love our clients. We have a great time. And we would love to see you in your new dream home as soon as possible. So there you go, guys. See you soon.